Conservatives say we need to elect a Republican president and Senate so they can nominate and confirm rock-ribbed conservative judges. Well, okay, pinning your hopes on 5 judges on a high court to save the republic is pretty much the definition of playing defense, and a judge's republic is a contradiction in terms anyway. But be that as it may, in theory there is now a 6-3 conservative majority on the Supreme Court. So how's that working out? Well, in recent days, Kavanaugh and Roberts have joined the 3 lefty judges in keeping the federal moratorium on rental accommodation eviction in place. And in the transgender bathroom case, Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, Barrett, and Roberts joined the 3 lefties in declining even to hear the case. So what's going on? We turn to not only the host of Fox News at Night, but our chief courtroom honcho, Shannon Bream. And Shannon has an excellent column on this at foxnews.com. And Shannon, your take is that there's really, it's not a 6-3 court. It's actually something closer to an Italian parliament. There's like multiple parties in here, or at least 3 of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems that when you look at how things shook out this last season, this last term for the court, yeah, you could argue there's a 3-3-3, that you've got the liberal justices, Sotomayor, Breyer, and Kagan on one end. In the middle, a lot of folks would argue you've got the Chief Justice, you've got Justice Roberts, and you've got Barrett, and you've got Kavanaugh. And then on the other end, sticking together on some of the tougher issues, you've got Justices Alito, Thomas, and Gorsuch. So that, you know, I think that you have those 3 in the middle who we saw them go both ways a number of times. They're not, if conservatives want to call something a, quote, reliable vote for what they want to see justices do or they hope they will do, but what they say they want is obviously for the justices to follow the law, the text, to interpret it as it's written. And for those 3, that often puts them in the middle, going back and forth with those 2 other branches.
Well, we've always had like a designated swinger on the court. 20 years ago it was Sandra Day O'Connor, and then it was Kennedy, and then it was Roberts. But this business where you've got basically a Roberts block, and you say it's 3, I'm not so sure it isn't 4, and that Gorsuch isn't part of that block too. This idea of a block that seems mainly interested in not wading in on anything that will make the court the center of America's cultures wars. Is that a fair précis?
Yeah, I think that you could look at it that way, because what they're going to argue, all members of the court, when they talk about this, is they don't want to be viewed as political. We know the chief very much is an institutionalist. He wants to protect the court as an institution. And I think you could argue that a couple of the other justices could be influenced by making decisions that way. Listen, they've come to a lot more consensus this last term than a lot of people would think based on the headlines. We crunched the numbers, and it's basically 60% of the time they were a unanimous decision, only a single dissenter. And I think they're all very aware of these calls for packing the court, this political pressure from outside. Even Justice Breyer, he was spoken out about, you know, stop with the pressing on the court about the packing, and clearly he resisted the numerous calls from the left for him to retire. I think they're all a little bit sensitive to that stuff coming from the outside.
But there is one, you say there's all this consensus. There's one guy who's not on board with that, and you've got a quote in your column. You say, Shannon, that left Trump still fuming, especially at 2 of his 3 nominees, Kavanaugh and Barrett. I am very disappointed. I fought very hard for them, but I was very disappointed with a number of their rulings, Trump said. Second guessing does no good, but I was disappointed with a number of rulings that they made. This is the guy who's appointed a 1/3 of the entire court, and he seems to think he got rolled, Shannon.
Yeah, and you'll remember all of these candidates or nominees will say, I've had no conversation with the nominating president. I didn't have a conversation with President Trump about how I'd vote specifically on anything. And that's what we want from our judges. So he had no guarantees. He probably was following guidance about what he thought about them based on their opinions and things they've said. But none of these justices is a guaranteed vote on anything until they get there, they hear the specific case, and they vote.
Well, the 45th president feels that there's more to it than that, Shannon, and he's mad at these guys. Thank you.